City Commission for July 18th to order. We have a roll call, please.
Chairperson Russell.
Chair, here.
Commissioner Bowman.
Present.
Commissioner Garcia. Present. Commissioner Berry.
Here.
Commissioner Hollins.
Here.
Commissioner Sawaya. Here. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Would you all join me in the pledge to our nation's flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm guessing this
Pardon me?
I'm guessing this is a bit, right?
I can't get mine to work either. I'm so ignorant on this thing. Approval of the minutes. Consideration of the minutes for approval. Consideration of the May 16th, 2019 regular meeting minutes for approval as written or with noted corrections. Did all?
For Regina. You could have her.
Oh.
Yeah.
There we are. Did anybody have a chance to read the minutes of the May 16th meeting?
Yes.
Are there any corrections or omissions?
I have none. I make a motion that we accept the minutes of May 16th as written.
Motion's been made to accept the minutes as written and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Item 2, consideration of public comments. Those wishing to address the Clean City Commission need not request permission in advance. Action taken as a result of public comments will be limited to directing staff to study the matter or rescheduling the matter for consideration and discussion at a later time pursuant to ARS 38-431. Does anyone want to address the Clean City Commission? Would you come up, state your name?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Krish Pudecha. I used to work at the county 15 years ago in the flood control group.
Thank you for
And
your
I
service.
retired from there. Now, the question that I have is about composting. When you say that, what does that mean?
I'm sorry?
Composting.
Well, we're going to have a presentation on that later if you want to stay with the meeting, and you'll get a whole description of composting.
Okay. Another thing that I am considering all the time, that our streets and the sidewalks, sometimes, they are not maintained right, so there is a lot of growth of weeds and stuff, and then eventually the sidewalks crack, and then it looks like very old city arrangement, and people don't like to move in, because they consider this is too old now. So that is the kind of thing that I have been thinking about. And people can take up some work, like volunteers, like I can be in a group of 5 people where we take care of half a mile of a road or something like that, without charging a dime, just our own work. No tools are required. Can that be done? But does it become part of the Commission's work? Keeping the city clean that way?
Mr. Chairman and Mr. Budeka, during the call to the public, the Commission and Chairman aren't allowed to engage in discussion, but I'd be happy to talk to you about any of those things after the meeting if you'd like.
Okay.
We're happy to listen to what you have to say. We just can't comment on it. We can put it off to another date and discuss it then. Put it on an agenda and discuss it.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that wants to address the Clean City Commission? No one? Consideration for public comments are closed. Item 3, reports. City of Kingman Expo, report regarding the Clean Cities Commission's participation in the City Kingman's Expo event that was held on May 30th, 2019. I think every one of us was present for that, so why don't I start at the end of the table, Commissioner Hoddles.
Well, that was the first one I attended, so wasn't sure what to expect and everything, but I thought there was a great turnout and a lot of interest in the recycling and what the Clean City does also. So I think we need to keep up with that and get information out to the people. And speaking of which, is the new recycling program. A lot of people don't know where to go yet, but other than that, like I say, it was a good turnout, I thought, and I was glad to see that, and I'm anxious for the next one.
Commissioner Ferry?
I agree. I thought it was really great. I went to the one last year. Not sure if that was the first or just the first time down there, but I just thought it was really nice, and you guys did a really great job with your presentation. You know, there was a lot of people that gave us the feedback that, oh, we didn't even know that these things were not recyclable, and so I think your visual display that you made that shows the items that are actually recyclable, and it was really neat seeing people stand up there and have a conversation about it. So I thought it was good.
Thank you. Commissioner Nickey?
It was good. It was nice to see that many people out there, and, you know, getting the education out, getting the connections with people. So, it was good.
Commissioner Bowman?
I think the lady that did the rugs really caught a lot of attention. And conversation was good with everybody. People stopped in and stuff like that. So I'd say we do it again. It was very beneficial, I think, to the public.
I've never been to one before because I don't actually live in the city. But I actually went around myself and picked up a lot of information. So there was a lot of good information there.
Thank you. I concur with everybody here. The one thing that like Commissioner Bowman said, the lady that was displaying what can be done. I don't know if all of you were at this particular expo. We have a lady, she's with the Dig It program, and she takes one-use plastic bags that you get in the grocery store, slices them, weaves them together, and makes mats out of them, which they give to homeless veterans so they're not sleeping on cold concrete or benches or things like that. And so while she was there, she crocheted, is that the word? Yeah, she crocheted one about, I guess it was 18 inches by 24. When she finally finished it, it was about so big and gave it away. Attracted a tremendous amount of attention. It was a expo that we were able to actually reach people, gave away little items for the kids, coloring books and crayons and water bottles and goodies, and we had our little Clean City Commission mascot walking around handing things out, and all in all, it was a very nice night, and it was a very pleasant experience, and we're looking forward to next year.
I do have one more comment.
Sure.
I want to thank Public Works and Sanitation for the easy up the tables and tablecloths and everything. Thank you.
Yeah. Big kudos to that. Anything else? If not, we'll go on to item B, the recycling program changes. Update on the changes of the Easy Recycling Drop Program and the ending of the Curbside Recycling Pilot Program as recommended by the Clean City Commission at the May 16th, 2019 meeting.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
members of the Commission, so we did open our central recycling facility on July 1st. We had a soft opening the week before. So we brought in all the containers from the several drop sites that we had around the city, brought them into the public works yard, Those are available to the public from 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. during the week, and from 7 till noon on Saturdays and Sundays. Again, the goal of that was to reduce the contamination that we were getting at the unsupervised sites. We were getting a lot of trash, a lot of commingled commodities. So the idea being that if we get a cleaner product and we streamline what we were accepting to the products that we can that have a local market, that would help reduce our transportation costs up to Las Vegas to process that and hopefully allow us to pay less in tipping fees for the proper disposal of those items. It's been a pretty good success. It was a little hairy the first week. We kind of had people wandering all over, and we learned some lessons. We had some signage. We kind of changed the layout of the site with another row. But we do have, it is manned all day. That's not additional work. It's still less than the manpower that we used to go out and pick up from all the other locations. But we do have 1 or 2 people out there all day to help people sort. And again, our big goal is to try to do the education on what we will accept. And again, try to utilize the local markets that we have to get them a cleaner product and reduce our transportation costs. So we've been averaging about 130 people a day. We've been doing an informal survey, and about 31% of those folks have identified themselves as county residents. And I don't know, Ed, did you have any other?
Contamination part almost down to 0. Everybody's putting in the correct container, if you will. We made a couple local loads. We worked with them. It's working well. They seem to be happy with the product that we're drawing on. So, contamination's the big issue, and I think the movement there is.
Good.
And I think, over the course of the first month or so, I kind of think there's probably people who make a recycling trip maybe once a month. But I think as we get people in there and through the first time, that it'll get smoother as it goes, and we'll have a lot more compliance on keeping the product clean.
Have you had to do a lot of sorting with the recycled stuff that the people bring in?
Not currently, now that we got all the bans, doing a better job at educating people who learn, accept that. Obviously, a lot of people that go too far, but those people that are coming in, we have actually have the program, so as they're going around, we have a minimum of 1 staff, possibly 2, workload, and they're able to talk with them, share with them, find how come they can be separate.
Yeah.
We do have a couple of questions there. These do not change. That we will have to take back with it. Probably keep that there. So we get full stream of used to what being expected of them. So possible.
I know it's pretty early to tell, but the amount of material, how does it compare with the amount we were getting from the drop bins?
Again, it's too early. July 1 is when we actually start. So
Yeah.
we won't have those numbers until after they send us information back out.
Right.
Hopefully, going to have a report in September to council. We'll keep you informed as well.
Okay. An odd thing happened. I was sent an email of a picture of some trash that was dropped off the next day after the bins were removed from Bash's, and someone had brought, just in spite, I believe, brought trash down and set it where the bins had been. Even a TV, which we weren't collecting anything at those bins for electrical stuff for what, a year? It had been a special bin at Public Works anyway, but they left the TV just to show us that they were irritated. So you can't please everybody. Any other questions?
I do, if you don't mind. So I've been just talking with people in the community, and a few questions have come up. So before, when we picked up the bins, let me step back just a minute. One thing that I'm finding is that people really didn't understand how we recycled. So I think that a lot of people just have this, picture in their head of what happens once we collect it. That maybe it goes to some fancy facility and there's a conveyor belt and it goes on to there and people are standing up and there's lots of people sorting. But they didn't really understand that it was picked up and then dumped onto a parking lot because we don't have a material recycling facility. And then from there, we have the prison labor sorting, right, from the ground into containers. And so then, now back to my question, when we picked it up, did we dump all of the bins into one? So we would pick up and make several trips.
Right, yeah, there'd be a truck that would go out and pick up all the cardboard.
Okay.
A truck that would go out and pick up the other materials.
So it kept it separate as much as we possibly could. So it was just the curbside where it was all being put together.
Well, there was still a lot of sorting on the...
With all the contamination.
Contamination, but yeah,
But we didn't intentionally put any of it together in that way. It was still kind of brought separated. But then we had a lot of contamination that still had to be sorted through. Okay, and then, so now, that's good. That was just a question that someone had. And honestly, my misunderstanding, that this just shows that people really didn't understand how it was done before. So what I've been telling people is that, like in our rural community, when we're collecting, it's being picked up and it's being sorted in that way that we discussed, like from, and I think you guys did the best that you could with the resources that we have. We just don't have a material recycling facility here in Kingman. And so it made sense for us to bring it back and to have someone on hand to sort, but it sounds like it's really been successful and everything. Have you guys been getting a lot of calls with people? I mean, I'm sure your lines are just blowing up.
Yeah, we've been getting calls on both sides.
Yeah.
A lot of it is, like I say, people didn't really understand, how it worked.
I can't quite hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. A lot of it was just, people didn't understand how it worked. But, we've had people that are upset with us, and then people that have had really good experience out there.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of education going on out there.
Yeah.
So that's good.
I've actually seen a handful of people post and say how they had a really positive experience going, and I had friends that are really into recycling, and they said, oh my gosh, we didn't realize we were a part of the problem. And I felt like that too, like when you guys set up that thing where you could see these are the things that you recycle, wow, I didn't know I couldn't recycle that thing. So I think I think that's really great. But how are we, just one more question, how are we in what ways have we put the education out there? Just so I can know. Like, was it put in a mailer? Was it put...
Well, when we made the switch, we had posted signage at all the drop sites saying when the switch was going to be effective. And we actually left those out for a while because, like I say, maybe somebody only does that once a month.
Yeah.
And we've installed a lot of signage out at the Public Works yard just to help direct people, because the first few days there were half a dozen of us were out there directing traffic because we had kind of people all over the place. Donna's done a good job on Facebook with a lot of that. So I think
it was also in the paper, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was a big story in the paper.
PSA in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
It's been shared all over social media in this area on almost all of the local Facebook pages. So,
And
unless you've been living in a cave.
And I ran into some people at Walmart that didn't know what was going on, so I explained to them, here's why we stopped doing that because of the cost, and here's where you need to go, and then just looked it up, and I took a screenshot on my phone and sent it to them. But so some way of saying, here's where you need to go. It's still alive. And the one thing they were saying was maybe longer hours, but
Are we going to do an informational video? Because this is just coming from me, like being on Facebook and seeing people, or being on, social media and seeing people kind of venting their frustrations about it moving. And these are people that are really dedicated to recycling and they want to do it for all the right reasons, But then I just have these conversations and I'm just I want to make sure that I have all my facts straight and everything, but just, it's amazing how many people don't really understand our recycling capabilities in our rural town. So is there going to be one of those informational videos out that can kind of talk to people a little bit more about it?
yeah, where would you show it? On Facebook. Oh, through Facebook, or the city's, Colleen?
The YouTube and
We talked about it. I think we're still kind of
working out
tweaking the
all
program as we run into issues or complications. So I think I'd like to have a little bit better, like to know that we were pretty much where we were always going to be. And some of that may depend on the feedback we get from council when we go to them in September. So
Yeah,
I think,
that makes
I think
sense.
that's in our plans, but we might wait to finalize some of those.
Okay.
Did you say that you try to have staff out there?
We do have staff out there.
Oh, okay. Because that's the one thing that was never at any of the others, so maybe that's a big educational thing too,
I
just
think
watching
so.
what people are doing and trying to educate them about what can and can't go in.
Yep.
Maybe ask them, follow us on Facebook. And then what I talked with Rob about is I was looking to see are there other ways that we can get rid of the paper that we have. So I have put in calls to the new plant manager out at Cascades, because I know they recycle what's their waste, they then reuse and recycle. And then when I looked up their recycling programs, they have a lot of paper recycling, maybe that goes to other facilities also, beyond just becoming toilet paper, paper towels, and napkins. So I'm going to follow up with that, and with Rob. We have a presentation. Oh, okay. Cool. Okay.
My observation on the new place was I got a lot of comments on there. We got it. I don't want to take that stuff way over there.
Yeah.
Well, if they went to Bosch, they were way over there to begin with. So it was like, okay, but it's right there. It's not that hard to find. But then I did run into people. I was down at Car a couple times, especially the first week or so after you changed it. Where's the recycling, so you just missed it, so maybe some better signage out there by the road might help. And of course you always get the people that's complaining about change, but that's to be expected. I think once they get used to it and find out it's not that difficult and learn how to separate the stuff, because before we were mixing all the plastics together, now you want ones and twos separated. So once people will figure out, have been there once, then I think they'll get the idea and got good signage out there of what to do. I'm going to try to make it back over there and get some picture of the signage to post on Facebook, especially for the people in the county there. So, but it looks like it's a lot easier to do now and stuff, and you got lots of bins and stuff. So it should help with the contamination for sure. So hopefully then we'll get the quantity up so it's worthwhile, and I'm still looking for machines to process it before we can sell it and make money instead of losing money. But that's another story. But good job so far, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, the big thing is that I don't think that people really understood what the cost of recycling was, and once they understand that you can't do business that way, it just doesn't work. They learn to do things properly. There will always be the crowd that recycle at any cost. I get a lot of that talking with people. Regardless of what it costs, we should recycle it. And I try and tell them we just don't have places to store it, and the cost of a MRF, and I have to explain what that is, and they don't realize the labor intensity of it or the cost. And until the market turns around and we can start selling this stuff and maybe getting at least breaking even on it, we're kind of stuck with what we have.
And that's a really important part. What she was talking about, the video, that needs to be part of it, because people need to understand why you can't recycle everything and why it costs as much as it does.
I think that's just being completely transparent about really everything that's going on. Like, I was just thinking about with the educational video, because I think that I have been one of those recycle at any cost people. I think at some point it's like we do need to do what's best for, not that this argument is going to sell, but we also do it because, we don't want to completely fill up our landfill, and we don't, but I think that just letting people know the facts about it, and that, I don't think people that really truly want to recycle, that go through the effort of sorting and driving it there, want it to end up in the landfill. And I think if we let people know that we're doing our best here to have a clean product, and then when we bring it, and which was really, really hard with the bins where they were, and then if we then bring it to Vegas, and what's the rate of their, was it 22% that is actually being recycled? And a large percent, or I don't know, I don't want to say exact percent, but there was a large percent of that then goes into the landfill. So I think if we can just do our very best to have a clean product up front, one, you're going to get more money on this product because it's a cleaner product, and two, on the other hand, it's not less is going into the landfill, and that's why we're really doing it, right?
But it cost us to bring it there, and we have to pay to bring it here, plus we have to pay them to take it.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the education that needs to happen, so that people can understand that
we're not getting any money back, we're just pay.
You can't do business that way.
But that is why we need to have a cleaner product, so that we can recycle as much as we possibly can.
And we need people to buy the stuff after it's all been recycled, and that's where one of the big problems is right now, is that we don't have a market to sell the stuff to. And the virgin product is not that much more expensive than the recycled product, and companies would rather use the virgin product than the recycled product. So I think Councilmember Watkins had mentioned once before that incineration is going to be the answer to our problems, but that's not in my lifetime. It's going to be a long time until technology catches up to where they can have incinerators that won't put out something that the EPA just will not allow, and acid rain and all that kind of stuff. So, but that's going to be the answer, because our land is for landfills is decreasing rapidly. And
Because even at Cascades, I've heard the operators say things such as, when they work with the stuff that's made from recycled, it doesn't necessarily work as easily to make a new product as virgin.
yes,
But they do it, so they recycle all of their waste to then, get shuffled between plants and so on.
anything else on this?
At least we don't have to pay extra to take the landfill stuff to the Vegas landfill. By having the education and the sorting here, at least we're only driving it to our landfill. So that's saving us money.
And the product that we collect is going to be clean, and that's the whole goal of this, is to have a product that we can recycle.
Yeah.
The problem we have is we're never going to get ahead until we get the equipment to process the stuff to sell it, because you can take a loose load of plastic bottles down there You don't get near as much in there. Nobody wants to buy them like that. They need to be compacted, baled, sold by the trailer load, and until we get equipment to do that, we're always going to be on the losing end of things. It's difficult enough to make money in recycling if you're not doing everything you can to do it. So we need to spend some money to make some money, because we're just going to continue spinning wheels until we can process that stuff and be able to sell it like the big guys. It doesn't take 40 acres to have a MRF or just a place to process the stuff, compact it, and store it. Take very little space. I'm sure somewhere in Kingman there is something like that. We also need to look at our local markets. We got tons of glass. What are we doing? Sending it to Vegas. There's nobody around here that using it for aggregate to make roads, sand for their sandblasters, the aggregate for the roads. There's people that use that here, but we haven't developed that market. And that's one thing that needs to be done, is the market developed locally for as much as we can, so we don't have to ship it. And your glass processing machinery, that's probably some of the cheaper product out there to do something with, because the machinery to do that is not that expensive compared to optical sorter and balers and all that stuff. So we can make a product with glass that's usable by many people around here if somebody would just do it. And somebody dedicate the resources to do that, because if we can spend $20,000 a month to lose, why can't we spend $20,000 a month to get this stuff where we can sell the stuff and make whatever we can off the product? Right now it's very low. Cardboard ain't worth a darn, $25 a ton. Not very good right now. But we didn't take advantage of it when it was $185 a ton last year. So that's what needs to be done. We need to have some money spent on that instead of money spent to just throw it away in the landfill or haul it to Vegas and let them throw it away in the landfill.
How long has this area been recycling?
How long has the job program been around?
November of 18, I believe. No, 17. The drop program. Since 08. 08. Yeah, 2008.
I imagine that you do this, but you must have contacts with people across the country who've been doing it for a lot longer than that.
Well, yeah, I mean, we just went to a meeting up in Flagstaff last week, and I think. I get the feeling sometimes people think, we just don't know how to do this, but, I mean, this is affecting everyone. Sierra Vista just ended their curbside program.
I think it's not anything that you're doing wrong and somebody else is doing right. I think what it is the East Coast doesn't have landfills. They used that up, so they have to recycle. There's no way around it.
They were dumping in the ocean for a while.
Right. I mean, New York, you remember the barges of garbage that went out into the ocean? Well, all that stuff's just roiling up on our beaches now. The thing I'm thinking of is that, we shouldn't have to get to the point where we don't have any space. When I first moved here, I didn't realize there was a landfill, because I'm from Massachusetts. We haven't had landfills in a really long time. And I made the comment that, you just can't dump this stuff into a landfill. You just can't keep doing that, because eventually you're going to... And the comment that came back to me was, hey, we live in a desert. We have lots of places to put stuff. And I don't know how long that's sustainable. And how long is it going to be before that stuff that goes into our landfill affects our groundwater?
Yeah, I guess going back to Commissioner Holland's point on upfront costs for capital for recycling. I guess the way we have to look at it is that recycling is part of our solid waste program.
Yeah.
So with our fund balance and solid waste, we haven't been able to replace a truck in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
We're going through that rate study right now. We've asked our consultant to give us some operational efficiency analysis if there's things that they see that we can do better. But it's not just about recycling. It's about us being able to process all that solid waste too.
Yeah.
And that all has to be paid for, and that's paid by the ratepayers. That's not tax dollars. That's the dollars that we charge our sanitation customers. It's an enterprise fund. We don't have access to general fund money. We have to pay our own way.
Who do you think is paying for the recycling program now? Is it the people who live in Kingman proper?
Well, yeah, all of our sanitation customers are inside the city limits.
So those of us that live in the county, we take advantage of that. But do we pay for it?
No, ma'am.
No.
Then maybe that's something you need to look at.
But I thought we were getting some money from the county. When we were dumping at the fairgrounds, I thought we were getting some money from the county.
They have is that the erase program?
That was a roving dumpster program.
Yeah, they contributed.
We had the same
to that
to dump out there.
Our department, sanitation, is funded by the ratepayers, and those are the people inside city limits.
Because, there are more than 15,000 people who live in Butler alone, and we're taking advantage of something that we're not paying for. Just an FYI.
I do have to commend the city of Kingman for at least they're doing something where the county is doing absolutely nothing.
Absolutely.
So, as much as we need to still do, at least you are doing something.
And this is a step in the right direction. I really do believe that. I think the more, and that's why I keep pressing this, let's be transparent, let's get the information out there, let's let the people know. A lot of people don't understand that this is enterprise funded, and it's not like the city council can just say this money is for this. It has to be paid for. This pays for itself, and so I think the more education we can continue to get out there, and our goal is to clean up the contamination so we have a cleaner product, and this is the best chance that this stuff is going to be recycled, and we're doing that.
And I think other cities.
And Sedona did that. We went to Sedona. They just took, and these are places that have been recycling for far longer than us, and they're bringing it back because it's all over the world right now that this.
And people need to understand if you don't do it properly, it goes away permanently. And that's the bottom line. But just as a little piece of historical fact, I spent most of my adult life in Massachusetts. When my son, who is 40 this year, was a Cub Scout, we went to tour a recycling plant that had just been built in Springfield. That was 35 years ago. It wasn't sustainable then, but they still did it.
So Sedona actually has a recycling facility. That's great, and one of the reasons that it's so successful is because it's a private-public partnership, and they're able to go out and fundraise a whole lot to be able to do what they're doing. But they actually have a beautiful facility where they can sort with conveyor belts, compactors, all of these things. But they took their bins away and brought them back to the facility so that they could have a cleaner product. Because I think what people don't understand is everyone's dealing with this problem right now. Everyone is having to clean up their act.
It's a smaller community than here, isn't it?
They were covering a large area over there and had to send a truck out to the different communities, and they quit doing that with the exception of some government buildings and stuff like that. They still support it. That's the last time I talked to them. So they pulled back a lot of that stuff, and because it's just too costly to send a garbage truck type vehicle, 40 or 50 miles and have different locations scattered all around there, just with the cost and what you was getting for the recyclables, it just didn't make sense to do that anymore.
cities all over the United States, and the closest right here in Arizona, I think, was Casa Grande. They've shut down completely. They're not doing what we're doing. They're taking glass and cans and cardboard and paper. They've shut down completely, and they've stopped it. One thing that our landfills, they could be almost a renewable source of gas, because if you drive by some of these places where the landfills are now built on, you'll see pipes sticking out of the ground with flames going up in the air. And
They smell very good.
they're not bad.
No, I'm sorry.
It's about like propane.
That's methane coming
It's
in there, and it smells.
There's big warehouses in Los Angeles that have set up their own plants, and they, rather than using propane for their material handling equipment, they're using methane gas and the inside of a warehouse, and it's not making people sick. It may not smell the greatest, but it's not making them sick or causing any problems.
Methane is a more difficult, more hazardous environmental. It's more of an environmental hazard than CO2 is.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, it is.
I'm not aware.
So it sounds like education is where we have to start.
Well, this is what the bottom line is. People don't realize how much it costs. We don't have the money to do what we need to do to make it work, and so we need to educate people.
And maybe if we did enough
just keep
education,
plugging away at it.
eventually when we propose something like what Wayne said, maybe getting a facility here, maybe people will be more open to it.
How do we?
Starting with education.
Yes.
Starting with education.
How do we?
Well, Sedona, that wasn't a budget thing, was it? They raised money for it.
That's because it's...
And they're actually a non-profit organization over there in Sedona, so they can do some funding and stuff. But they also had to, they was using people that they was only paying a couple bucks an hour for, and then last year or so, then they had to kick up and pay the minimum wage, so that increased their price also a lot for doing business over there. So, but it doesn't take, in a community like theirs and ours, we don't need, 100 people working in sorting this stuff and bailing it or whatever. You can do it with a much smaller crew. So,
But again, I think with the sanitation rate study, all that's going to be looked at, and we'll be presenting those drafts to you as we get them. But we just want to let you know where we stand with it now, and we'll continue to update you. And as we prepare our report for council in September, we'll try to get you something ahead of time to speak for you to look at and give us some input.
Cool.
Anything else before we wrap this one up? Okay. Then we can move along to old business. Promoting community involvement. One of my favorites. Discussion and possible action regarding activities relating to encouraging community involvement in the Clean City Commission cleanup and activities. We've got an activity coming up in another 2 months that we'll talk about later on the agenda that I'm hoping will help promote some of this, and right along with our Adopt a Block and Trail program. One thing that brought their attention to the Clean City Commission, according to the rants and raves in the newspaper, is dropping the recycling bins. We got a lot of people writing in, and suddenly there's a lot of activity from the public about the Clean City Commission.
That's true, but it's pros and cons.
But it's pros and cons.
But and thank you, Eddie. They had their $3 thing. They had it in the paper. I took advantage of it. It was great.
And it is. Eddie sent me a copy of the flyer, and I printed it off and took it down to Old Town and passed it out to a few places. Most of them were aware of it and had already called in. Two of them weren't, and they were very happy that they got the information on that. So that helps. But I think more programs. We got the fair coming up, which helps, which we'll have to vote on at this meeting. We're getting close on time on that. But our little booths that we set up, I think, are really a good idea. They help. It gets to the public. There's still probably 20% of the people in town that still think that property tax helps pay for all of these things. They don't realize that it goes elsewhere and not to the city. And so until they realize that we need some way of raising money to fix these things, and the only way they're going to know is for us to tell them.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I guess we've been carrying this item for a while. I think we've kind of come to the conclusion that between Facebook and city website and the special events, the outreach that we're doing, it's kind of how we're focusing our efforts to improve community involvement. I didn't know if you wanted to continue with this item on the agenda.
I think we can drop it for a little bit. We've pretty much got our program set up now as far as what we're doing, and just continue what we've been doing. Any other discussion on that?
I think in my experience, it feels like from, even last year, this year, we've been doing a lot more. We've been a lot more involved in the community. We've been doing more little pop-ups and booths. I think that bringing the bins to the city is more empowering, and people are more involved. I think that I love working with the Diggett Community Garden and different people like that. I'm excited that there's a new form here that for the Adopt a Block and Adopt a Trail that we can start encouraging people to be a part of. Like that gentleman that was here, I think he'd be a great candidate for this.
I'll talk to him tomorrow about it.
Thanks.
Anything else? Okay. We'll move on to B, Adopt a Block Park Trail Program, discussion and possible action regarding the Adopt a Block Trail Program. Again, we've got this Day of Caring coming up, and I've been hitting a few people, organizations, talking to them not only about the Day of Caring, but getting involved with the Adopt a Block program. I talked to the city manager, and they did that one staff cleanup that we did down in front of the old Kmart, and he said, well, they can get together and do it again. And so I thought maybe we could get that whole thing, talk to them and maybe get them set up on an Adopt a Block program. So I'm going to keep working with city manager to see if he'll talk to those people and get them to work on an actual Adopt a Block.
So I did I think I'm finished with the changes to that form. So I talked to the Parks Director, and they're fine. I'll just coordinate. So I guess just for a little background, we have the Adopt a Block program. And the commission had suggested that we add parks and trails to it, and talked with the Parks Director, and he's fine with that. And we'll coordinate with the Park Superintendent as we get those requests. So we just basically added that to the Adopt a Block program, and I think we can administratively make those changes, and we'll just make that available or publicize that on our Facebook page and get the word out a little bit, and start trying to encourage some more of that.
So I have a friend who saw it on the Facebook page and was kind of wondering why because it didn't offer the option of download and print it or something like that. So she made a special effort to come here, and she didn't talk to the water side. She talked to the people on this side, and they had no idea where to get this form.
Well, it was finalized yesterday. So
okay, but didn't we have one before that?
We got a document.
Okay.
Not on this one that I printed off.
Month before last.
Okay, but we had a Dr. Block program in place before.
Yes. Yeah.
In the form was
And I can,
2 months ago.
yeah, we can run that down, make sure it's more accessible on the website.
Yeah, something, because she said whoever was manning the desk had no idea where to get even the old form.
Right.
So she
Look how eager people are to sign up.
no, I don't want to sign up, but,
Well, like this, just talking, we still work with Rich Ruggles on some of this, and I mean, we basically there's a group out pretty much every weekend. I know he's got a group going out this weekend, so he's maintaining that spreadsheet of who goes out when. So you may not always see people out there, but there's pretty much a group out somewhere around town every weekend doing a pickup.
Nice.
I wanted to talk to Mike Mearsman. He's out of town until Monday, I understand. But I wanted to kind of talk to him about how we could work together on this thing so that the Clean City Commission isn't getting in the way of Parks and Recs and sort of what we can do to help them rather than get in their way and do things that really aren't necessary, especially on the trail program.
Yeah, I think administratively, like when we get an application, it goes through our traffic safety committee, and we review that, and that committee would approve it. With the parks and the trails portion of it, we would probably just refer that to the park superintendent, and he could work with those folks on what they want to do and where they want to do it.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm never familiar with where all the trails are, to be honest with you. I need a map of
I
that.
think it's best that, that's their infrastructure. I think it's best that they manage those projects on their side.
I saw that you updated the age here, so thank you for doing that. I think it says here a child under the age of 18 is required to sign a youth participation release form. Oh, it's the participation is 12 years. Was that what it's always been?
Yeah, it was 12, and I talked to our risk management folks about the signing of the waiver for younger adults under 17, and they wanted to maintain that the same way that it was.
So it's 12, okay.
So yeah, 12 to 17 requires a parent or guardian's permission.
Okay. Okay.
cool. I will keep this one and give it to my friend.
So now that there's a new Adopt a Block Trail Park program starting, are the people that still have Adopt a Blocks that they did it years ago, are they going to have to reapply to have that same spot, or? No, so they're good?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I think at some point we'll have to go through and contact the folks who maybe aren't doing it as much as they said they were going to. Yeah. No, we wouldn't make anybody go through that process.
Yeah, we'll have to update that. Some of the people on that old Adopt a Block list aren't participating anymore. But
well, I'm sure there's been turnover in those groups, and some of our contact information is probably not the best. So.
Okay. Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay. Item 5, new business. Consideration of application. Meet Clean City Commission President Jennifer Braun Curry and answer any questions she might have about Clean City Commission. Welcome back.
Last time, you guys were all missing. Actually, Colin got me to.
I was here.
Did a couple of,
You was here.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
You were here. So, anyway, I don't know really how many questions I have. I mean, the questions would come after I've been here a while.
Right.
Exactly. But it was kind of nice listening to you because my background, companies I've worked before, all had recycling programs, and actually we one of the old businesses I worked for before I came to Kingman, we recycled fabrics, or we used recycled product in all of our fabrics for one of our lines, everything, and we even used recycled wools. It doesn't matter what it was, but lots of recycled plastics and stuff. So I kind of got started way back when, into that and interested in it and all of that. And then I managed a 24-hour fitness, and when you do that, you're responsible for your cleaning and everything else, and that's when I got I got really kind of funny about making sure things, not just recycling, it just kept clean, you know, and that's kind of a big thing for me is wanting to see. I mean, I got here, as soon as my husband and I came to Kingman, this is where we wanted to be. I mean, literally that first day we drove in, we're going, oh, we love this place, and we hadn't been anywhere, really. So, I mean, we just saw so much potential in Kingman. It's such a beautiful place here. And so it's just not just recycling I'm interested in, but it's literally keeping things clean. You know, whether it's businesses being a part of what they do every day is go outside and clean anything. But I wanted to be a part of something in the city. I always wanted to do that, and Donna had mentioned Clean City, and when I applied, I did see that as one of the things that you know, one of the commissions here, and I thought, well, that would be something I'd love to be interested in doing, being a part of. So that's why Donna said, you know, that there was an opening, and I said, yeah, I'd love to come, you know, learn more about it, you know, put what I can into it. And right now I work for Nucor still, so we have obviously a very big recycling program. We're the largest recycler in North America. So we know a lot about recycling there. Ashley brought with me today Gina. She just moved out here. She's our new environmental and safety coordinator. So she was super interested when I told her that I wanted to do this, and so I think she wants to be involved at some point, you know. So I think it would be great. Anyway, so again, I don't have a lot of questions right now. The questions will come the more I know. But anyway, I'd love to be part of this. I'm sorry?
How do you pronounce your last name?
It's Boncory.
Boncory.
I was close.
Yeah, I know. Well, pretty close. It's usually not quite there, but. So.
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah. Questions of me?
You're a musician. What do you play?
Oh, yeah. My husband and I, we play together. We had a band when we were in California. We had funny family members. Kind of. Right now, the new thing for me is the bass. We decided we needed a bass, so it's play bass.
Okay, my hearing aids just went dead, so I...
Okay, well, I have a little trouble hearing too. I have a prosthetic in this ear, so. But we play and we sing locally downtown. You've seen us around here, for sure. I know your face for sure. But yeah, we really enjoy doing that. So, and that's one of those things we want to be involved any way we can, you know, musically, or you know, dedicate our time to things like that we can. But anything else? Any questions?
You have an impressive
Resume.
No kidding.
I have a different background. So, and of course, I'm not afraid of getting up and speaking. If you ever needed anybody to do things like that, no problem with that.
Good.
Yes, I don't have a at all. I can get out there and, you know.
Well, thank you very much.
Welcome to Kingman.
Thank you very much. Love it here. Would not leave.
Now, with the new system, do we vote, or does the staff just automatically let the council know?
We'll forward her application to the council.
Good. So
We'll let her know when the meeting's going to be.
So we don't have to do any voting here at all?
No, sir.
Super. Okay. At the first council meeting next month, if you could be present, because they would probably like to hear what you have to say. So, thank you. Item B, appointment of chairperson and vice chairperson. Discussion and appointment of a chairperson and a vice chairperson. As of 2018, I just sort of went on from 2018 to 2019, and there really wasn't any vote. And then Rich Wing resigned, so we are without a vice chair right now. So, any discussion? Anyone interested in either of those positions, or is there any nomination for people for those positions?
When do people's term expire here?
Normally, it's the first of the year. We vote is it December or January we normally vote? I don't remember. All the councils do it at the same time, I believe.
In January or something.
Yeah, because they take over in January, so I didn't know if they voted in December for the new chairperson and vice chair, and then they take over in January, or they vote in January and then they take over in February. I can't remember.
Tom says January.
It is January.
I included this statute in your packet.
So now are we just looking for nominations and then we'll do it in January?
And we do it again in
Just to
January,
start-
yeah.
It's really not specific in the statute, though, it just says annual. So,
Yeah, I think we could do appointments and then revisit it come January. But as it stands right now, we don't have a vice chair.
Because I am more than happy to stay on as chair if you put up with me.
I'm very good with it. Yeah.
Any nominations for vice chair?
Vice chair, right.
Commissioner McKay has got seniority over all of us here. I think she was a commissioner when I came on back in 14, I think it was.
Given my responsibilities at work, I wouldn't want to take it on. So that sometimes, it means that I can't be at certain things. And obviously, like this last month, I somehow slipped my mind that it was Thursday. Because we got busy at work. So, actually, I was thinking either Sarah, but I don't know if you're too busy with your business, or Wayne. I don't know, what your schedules are.
Well, last week was a day after our grand opening, and I do apologize to all of you. I was very busy. It was a week of staying up until 2 a.m. to just get ready. But my life feels a lot more normal again. My laundry pile is getting smaller and my dishes. I think I would be interested in considering one of those positions.
Okay.
Can we table it one more meeting?
Well, we have till January, but
Wayne?
Well,
December.
what we're discussing is here to January, and January re-elect.
Right.
Would you be sad giving up your...
Nope.
Would it be a relief? Wayne?
Actually, I think it's a good idea.
Interested?
I am undecided yet. I think my term ends at the end of the year here, and I haven't decided if I want to try to stay on or not yet.
I hate to see you go.
Would you be willing to coach me for a while?
Yeah, no problem. Just a little parliamentary procedure. No, that's not a big deal.
May I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Chairman Russell, why don't you stay on? What I did would be for you to stay on as chair. Sarah be vice chair until the end of the year, and then if you wanted to, that way
That's a
you
good idea.
That works for me.
That's what I thought we were doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I was okay with you staying on, as chair, and I was just suggesting the two of you because of your involvement and interest, but I didn't know for you, Sarah, because of the business. So,
Entertain a motion?
And then, if you decide to switch, whatever.
I make a motion that we have Sarah as vice chair.
There you go.
I second.
Motion's been made and seconded that Sarah Ferry take the position of vice chair. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thanks.
Congratulations. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Could we go ahead and do a motion for the chairman's position too? Because I don't think we, just to formalize that until...
Entertain a motion that I continue until the end of the year.
I make a motion that C. Russell continue being chairman till the end of the year.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded that I continue to the end of the year. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Item C, City of Kingman composting. Discussion and possible action in regards to composting. Assistant Public Works Director and Wastewater, Keelan Yarborough, will explain and answer questions regarding the current biosolids and composting program at the Hilltop Wastewater Treatment Plant.
None of it's easy, is it? The name or the presentation?
No, but it's really cool.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners and Councilmen. I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to speak on you a little bit, or speak to you a little bit about our biosolids composting program at our Hilltop Wastewater Treatment Plant. I'll try not to bore you too much, so some of this stuff is probably going to be a little bit dry, but as we go through it, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to interrupt. I must confess, Commissioner Bowman was here early, so she's got the insight to the whole presentation, right? No, just kidding.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
So we've been composting our biosolids at our Hilltop Wastewater Treatment Plant since about 2012.
Keelan?
Yes, sir.
What are biosolids?
That's the next slide.
Oh.
Yes, sir.
What was the proof?
Biosolids production and characteristics. So it takes two things to make composting or biosolids into compost, rather. And those two things are a carbon source, which typically or currently is tree trimmings. And then the second part to it is our dewatered biosolids, or the stuff that is no longer specific to the biomass of the wastewater treatment plant, right? So it's the waste material, essentially.
So poo and paper?
Sorry, yes.
Poo and paper?
Well, so
without the water?
More of the former. Okay. We'd like to think so. A majority of the paper products get screened out.
Okay.
Correct? Yeah. So, to Rob's point, what are biosolids and how are they different from sewage sludge? Biosolids, by definition, means sewage sludge, including exceptional quality biosolids that is placed on or applied to the land to use the beneficial properties of the material as a soil amendment conditioner or fertilizer. The term biosolids distinguishes high-quality treated sewage sludge from raw sewage sludge and from sewage sludge containing large amounts of pollutants. Good with that?
It's a tongue twister.
Biosolids can be considered either a waste to be disposed of by landfilling or incineration, a beneficial soil amendment, and then land application recycles soil-enhancing constituents such as plant nutrients and organic matter. Main fertilizer benefits are through the supply of nitrogen, phosphorus, and lime, where lime-stable soils are applied. Biosolids also supply essential plant nutrients, sulfur, manganese, zinc, copper, iron. There's a bonus question.
Molybdenum.
Who said that?
Molybdenum.
Very good. Yeah. And boron. In this slide, I've just included a very rudimentary diagram of the process out at our Hilltop treatment plant. So as you can see, we've got the raw influent coming in, and then we go through.
I don't see.
I'm sorry.
Which box or whatever?
Yeah. So can you see up right there? And I apologize, I know that's kind of small. So you've got raw influent coming in to the plant, right? Thanks, Rob.
Okay.
And then it goes through that first set of screenings like we were talking about where we're pulling out all the foreign material, or a good majority of it, right? Paper products, etc. From there, it goes through what we call a cyclone separator or grit removal. So in that particular process, we're removing coarse materials such as, road grind or runoff from the road that inevitably gets in the sewer system, even though we try to prevent a majority of that. But so that's more of a sand or a grit type material that we're removing in that process. From there, we go to our oxidation ditch, and two things are happening in the oxidation ditch. On the leading end, so if we split this in half, on the leading end, we're going into an anoxic zone, so we're essentially starving the biomass, or depriving it of oxygen, right? That starts the nitrification and denitrification process. As we go around what's called the carousel portion of that oxidation ditch, it's constantly going between a cycle of anoxic and then aeration. And what you're doing there is you're taking the ammonia out of it, right, and you're turning it into free nitrogen gas, right? From there, we go to a clarifier, right, where we're settling out solids. And then, so you've got about a 3-foot sludge blanket on the bottom of solids, and then you've got about another 15 feet of what we call supernatant, or what's starting to become clear water, right? As we go down here, so then from this point, this is where it becomes essential to the biosolids production, right? We're taking a portion of that and we're returning it to the head of the plant, where we're mixing it with the raw influent, and that starts the breakdown of the ammonia, right? Okay, and then so what we're not returning to the head of the plant, we're wasting off, or what's called WAS, waste activated sludge, and that goes to a sludge EQ tank. So we're jumping down here, right? Goes to a sludge EQ tank where we dewater it, or decant the water as much as the liquid off of the top, and then we put it through a belt filter press. And what we're doing there is, so whatever moisture content is left, we're trying to press that out or extract that moisture out with the belt filter press. From there, it goes directly into a 10-yard dump truck. We take it out and we windrow it, and then it becomes, or then we start the manufacturing process with the carbon source, or the tree trimmings, right? So we mix it, and then we've got to let it set for like 15 days, hold a specific temperature, and then we test for it afterwards, right? And those have to be, we have permits that DEQ sets the standards on. If for whatever reason one of those constituents is out of range, then we can't let that off the facility site, so we'll rebulk it, right? Okay.
So then does it go through the process a second time, or is it usually just it's...
So after we've met the vector and pathogen reduction, right, and then after we've met the Class A biosolids criteria that DEQ set, then currently we only have one partner for land application purposes, and that's our Parks Department.
Yeah.
So then from that point we can let the Parks Department land apply it.
Do you end up... I might be jumping ahead. This is just so fascinating to me. I'm a dork about this. So do you usually end up with more product than you can use?
Currently, yes.
Do we have any other people that are willing to take it, or it's just... So,
the answer to your question, no, not currently, but we are doing some outreach to see if we can, if there's other state departments, for instance, for instance, ADOT, when they're doing road projects, right? What are they using to do erosion control with? They're using a fertilizer. You see it all the time, like if you're going to Vegas, right? They've got some other criteria that so I guess to this point, they haven't bid on what we've offered. But a few years back, we partnered with an alfalfa farm out in the Mojave Valley area, and so everything that we would produce, they would use. Unfortunately, though, a neighboring municipality on the California side, what we were giving them for free, so that other municipality started paying that farmer to come take it. So anyway,
Do you offer that at all to private citizens?
So currently, no, and we can get into that a little bit more. There's some other steps and some other permitting that goes with a bagging program to allow citizens to come take it. That permitting process, obviously, through DEQ, but currently we do not.
I heard vector and biohazards.
No, vector and pathogen control.
Yeah,
yes,
I'm a
ma'am.
nurse. Vector and yeah. So what is that?
So we'll get into that in a couple slides here, but essentially, obviously, vector reduction is so that we're not causing any issues with. We don't want to have, or we don't want to be contributing to a high fly population or rodent population or
insects.
What's that?
I always think of vectors as being insects.
That as well. Yeah.
And pathogens would be just the diseases that
That's
come
correct. And the reduction process comes as holding a certain temperature, right? For don't quote me on this, but I think it's like 145 degrees for 14 days. It's probably in the PowerPoint here, but yeah.
How do you keep the vectors, the flies down?
Well, that's a good question. So if you have, so currently, if you have piles out there that you're bringing to a certain temperature, that in and of itself is going to
attract flies.
Discourage them, right?
Oh, okay.
I would say, you've probably got the flies are the raw wastewater is more appealing to them than the compost.
Okay. Wait, but what was on that last slide?
Yep, sorry. So wastewater treatment, and again, this just goes into kind of a little bit more in depth into what we already had discussed on the previous slide. So in the wastewater treatment process, you've got the primary process, which removes solids by settling. Secondary is biological treatment, removes solids via decomposition of organic matter. And then you've got a thickening process, which, like we had talked about, what we're wasting off, we're sending to an EQ tank and we're dewatering it, right? And then we're sending it through a belt filter press. And with that, you increase your solids content, obviously, which is better for the composting, right? Or even if you're going to landfill it, which we haven't. I don't think we ever have since we started that plant up. And then, of course, lower transportation costs. Secondary treatment. So now you see what I was referring to by carousel. This is the aeration portion. So this is the portion that we're adding air to. And then this over here is one of two clarifiers where you've got the 3-foot sludge blanket on the bottom, right, and about 15 feet of supernatant or clear water on the top. Stabilization methods, so digestion, anaerobic, it can be either anaerobic or aerobic. All of our stuff is in the aerobic state. We don't have anaerobic digesters. Biological stabilization via conversion of organic matter to carbon dioxide, water, and methane. Reduces biological oxygen demand, pathogen density, and attractiveness of the materials to vectors. Reduces quantity of biosolids. Sorry. Oops. So stabilization methods, they come in a couple different forms. Obviously, we're going to use the heat drying form, like we had talked about, keeping a certain temperature for X amount of days. I won't get into the pH method because we don't use that out here.
That would be
here.
like using lime?
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. So for the heat drying portion, the drying of biosolids by increasing temperature during wastewater treatment destroys pathogen, eliminates most of water, greatly reduces sludge volume. So here's a picture of our belt filter press. We tried to get one with it operating, so I apologize for not. But anyway, so all of our waste-activated sludge After it's decanted in the sludge EQ tank, it goes through this belt filter press. It's a series of belts that essentially compresses more moisture out of it. Advanced stabilization methods, composting, aerobic thermophilic biological stabilization in a windrow, aerated static pile or vessel, destroys pathogen and converts sludge to humus-like material. Excellent soil conditioning properties, contains less plant available nitrogen than other biosolids. Total solids include suspended and dissolved solids and are usually expressed as the concentration present in biosolids. It depends on the type of wastewater treatment and biosolid stabilization. Typically, solids content of various biosolids processes are 2 to 12%, dewatered or 12 to 30, and dried or composted 50. Volatile solids estimate of the readily decomposable organic matter in biosolids, usually expressed as a percentage of the total solids, and then determinant of potential odor problems at land application sites. Some treatment processes reduce volatile solids content and thus odor potential.
Do you usually have any complaints with that?
So, truthfully, in the beginning, we did. And then would like to think that we refined the process, and since then, very few, really. And I think Mike Mearsman can certainly attest to that as well, because he's usually the one that would get the bulk of the complaints, right?
Have you been able to cut back the amount of tomatoes that grow out of this fertilizer of various varieties?
They certainly come with the territory, right? pH and calcium carbonate equivalent measures of the degree of acidity and alkalinity of the substance. The pH of biosolids is often raised with alkaline materials to reduce pathogen content and attraction of disease-spreading organisms. CCE is the relative liming efficiency of the biosolids expressed as a percentage of calcium carbonate, calcitic limestone liming capability. This one I just threw in a table there. This is the federal standards, so federal standards and trickle down to the state standards. So eliminate requirements for plant growth that provides biosolids with most of their economic value. And then of course we already talked about some of this. Includes nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium. Trace elements. So these are some other constituents that we test for before they're land applied, commonly referred to as heavy metals, found in low concentration in biosolids. Some are essential plant nutrients needed in low concentrations. All can be toxic to human, animals, or plants at high concentrations. Federal and state regulations have established standards for 9 trace elements. Complex compounds that include man-made chemicals from industrial waste, household products, pesticides, other compounds, found at such low concentrations in biosolids that US EPA concluded they do not pose significant human health or environmental threats.
Does that include medication that gets flushed?
I'm sorry.
I said, does that include medication that gets flushed?
Oh.
And you'll hear a lot in the water wastewater industry, contaminants of emerging concern, or CECs. So those are certainly they're not constituents that DEQ or EPA currently require testing for. In other words, they're not part of our permit. I don't know if someday in the future they may be, but they're certainly something that they keep a close eye on.
If I could interrupt for a second, just as a reminder, please don't flush your medications. There's a drop box at the Kingman Police Department where you can just walk in. It's an old-style mailbox, and you can drop off any unused.
That's another education point that probably wouldn't hurt to be passed out periodically because a lot of older people still do flush, and my biggest concern is antibiotics.
But, yeah, in the lobby at the police department's open 24 hours a day if you want to go in there and drop off any unused medications.
No organic pollutants are included in the current federal biosolids regulations. Further assessment of several specific organic compounds is being conducted. Pathogens, disease-causing microorganisms that include bacteria, viruses, protozoa, and parasitic worms can present a public health hazard if they are transferred to food crops grown on land to which biosolids are applied, contained in runoff to surface waters from land application sites, transported away from the site by vectors such as insects, rodents, and birds. Federal and state regulations specify pathogen and vector attraction reduction requirements that must be met by biosolids applied to land. Here we get into some of the Title 18 stuff, that guidelines that we're required to follow. Arizona Administrative Code Title 18, Chapter 9, Article 10, that outlines Class A and B pathogen reduction requirements. We currently use Alternative 5, composting. We use the windrow method, maintaining the temperature of the biosolids at 55 degrees C or higher for at least 15 days. The windrows shall be turned at least 5 times when the compost is maintained at 55 degrees C or higher. And then 18-9-1010, vector attraction reduction. Treat the biosolids in an aerobic process for 14 days or longer, during which the temperature of the biosolids is higher than 40 degrees C and the average temperature of the biosolids is higher than 45 degrees C. Standards for the use of disposal of sewage sludge, Title 40, the Code of Federal Regulations, CFR Part 503. Commonly known as the 503 rule, developed by US EPA as required by the Clean Water Act amendments of 1987. Part 503 rule establishes minimum requirements when biosolids are applied to land to condition the soil or fertilize crops or other vegetation grown in the soil. Determination of the biosolids quality is based on trace elements, pollutants, concentrations, and pathogen and vector attraction reduction. Federal regulations require that state regulations be at least as stringent as the Part 503 rule. Sealing concentration limits. Again, these are just outlining the limits on some of the constituents that we've already spoke about. Sewage sludge exceeding the sealing concentration limit for even one of the regulated pollutants is not classified as biosolids and hence cannot be land applied. Pollution concentration limits. Most stringent pollutant limits included in Part 503 for land application. Biosolids meeting pollutant concentration limits are subject to fewer requirements than biosolids meeting sealing concentration limits. Cumulative pollutant loading rate, total amount of pollutant that can be applied to a site in a lifetime by any bulk biosolids application meeting sealing concentration limits. No additional biosolids meeting sealing concentration limits can be applied to a site after the maximum cumulative, pollutant loading rate is reached at the site for any one of the 9 regulated trace elements.
How do you test that?
How do we test
Do you
that?
test the land itself, or do you just go by however many times you apply?
Well, so
knowing what the
yeah. So currently, when we report to DEQ, we go off what we've applied,
Okay.
right? Because we report that in 2 different. Not that this is means anything necessarily, but we report it in a volumetric amount, but then we also report it in a dry tonnage amount as well. Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Another table with a lot of the constituents that we already talked about. Class A pathogen reduction. Pathogens are reduced, including salmonella, bacteria, enteric viruses, and you're going to have to help me out on that one. Processes to further reduce pathogens, PFRP treatments such as those involving high temperature, high pH with alkaline addition, drying, and composting. or their equivalent are most commonly used to demonstrate the biosolids meet Class A requirements. Class A biosolids can be land applied without any pathogen-related site restrictions. And that's important because everything that goes off-site at our facility is Class A.
Is what?
Is Class A biosolids.
Okay.
Unless you guys want me to touch on the Class B stuff, it's not applicable to us because we don't even, like I say, if it's not A, we don't let it go off-site.
Okay.
Vector attraction reduction, we've covered that probably a couple times. Again, it's to prevent disease vectors such as rodents, birds, insects from transporting pathogens away from land application site.
I just found out the helminth is worm-like parasites that can be 1 millimeter to over 1 meter in length.
Don't Google it, right?
Yeah, we don't want that. We don't want eggs from helminths. No.
Exceptional quality. So again, if we're producing Class A, they're exceptional quality. They meet the Part 503 PCL's Class A pathogen reduction, vector attraction reduction option that reduces organic matter. This is just getting into the nitrogen, obviously fertilizers. That's one of the main portions of them, right? So biosolids compost is no different. Phosphorus and lime content. Site suitability. Federal, state, and local regulation ordinances or guidelines place limits on land applications based on site physical characteristics that influence land application management practices. Potentially unsuitable areas for biosolids applications include areas bordered by ponds, lakes, rivers, and streams without appropriate buffer zones, wetlands, and marshes, steep areas with sharp relief, undesirable geology, undesirable soil conditions, areas of historical or archaeological significance, and other environmentally sensitive areas such as floodplains. Suitable bulking agents, agricultural byproducts such as manure and bedding from various animals, animal mortalities, and crop residuals.
Residues.
Thank you. Yard trimmings, including grass clippings, leaves, weeds, stumps. So this is the part that's applicable to us, right? Stumps, twigs, trees, tree prunings, Christmas trees, and other vegetation. That makes up all of our current composting program as far as the carbon source goes. Food byproducts, including damaged fruits and vegetables, coffee grounds, peanut hulls, eggshells, and fish.
Residue.
Industrial byproducts from wood processing, forestry, brewery, and pharmaceutical operations. Paper goods, paper mill.
Residue.
Yeah, right? Now you're part of it. And biodegradable packaging materials are also used. And of course, municipal solid waste. Now keep in mind, there are a few other municipalities. Sierra Vista, I believe, is one of them. Pine Top, I believe, is another one. And then, of course, I reached out to DEQ. So currently, there is no facility in Arizona that is using any of the other items other than the yard trimmings, grass clippings, leaves. So there's no other facility or municipality in Arizona that's using anything but the green.
Is that just too hard to break down, too messy?
Yes. For us specifically, you keep in mind, I don't know how many of you have visited the wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah.
Who wants to, right? But you're certainly welcome to. It's out in the open. It's obviously extremely windy out there. There's a chain link fence that goes around the perimeter of it. It would be extremely difficult to contain those other paper products specifically.
Yeah.
I'd say lack of a.
Not just food, but like paper, like napkins and plates and pizza boxes? Is there just too much concern that it'll become litter? Okay.
Yes.
Rats. That's good to know, though.
And I'm only speaking, specifically about here. I don't know why some of the other municipalities haven't explored those options. I can suspect it's for the same reasons.
Yeah.
But
when we went to that the waste expo, I went to a couple that were about composting, because I feel like in a rural community it is a lot harder to recycle, and being that we don't own our landfill and so we pay tipping fees, they talked about a lot of places, maybe focusing a little more on composting than just recycling. And I know that it takes a lot, and there's a lot that goes into it. You're looking at how regulated it is and all this stuff, and just the vectors. Like when they said you start to introduce like food products, it's a whole different beast.
Right.
And they didn't even recommend you just go right into the municipal composting. They recommended getting like a backyard composting thing going, and really starting with the education where people understand how to compost properly. Because now we talk about contamination with recycling. Boy, these composters have so much contamination they have to deal with on a whole nother level.
Right.
So they recommended doing like a backyard composting, where again it was teaming up with, a group of people in the community. Maybe it's the agricultural department, maybe it's the Dig It Community Garden, maybe it's just like a whole bunch of people that are really interested in sustainability, and then training the people in the community to backyard compost, and then they can go out and train other people. And that alone, showing that interest in the community, people will start to look at the community and come here, So it's just, I guess one thing I'm wondering is, do you see it being able to expand more here in Kingman?
So let me ask, as far as distributing what we have to the community, or specifically about incorporating the paper products, or both?
I think one, distributing to the community, and also lessening the amount of stuff that we take to the landfill that is compostable. So maybe like eventually, like now you do tree trimmings and such. I know that it would take a lot more manpower probably, and bigger probably facility and everything, but even starting with like maybe accepting more from the community of like the trimmings and things like that.
Right. So currently, and I apologize, I should have gave you a little bit of history up front on that. So currently, we've got an influx of carbon materials. So for the past 6 years, we've accepted tree trimmings from local landscapers, from anybody in the community, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And right now, we've just got an influx of it. So we just recently had to kind of curtail that a little bit. Now we plan to get back into it. So currently, the way the production goes is we rent a horizontal grinder either once a year, ideally, or if it's not available, because those are hard to come by, maybe every other year. That piece of equipment alone by itself costs about $50,000. So when we get it for this upcoming or this current year, and we're able to grind up some of the existing tree trimmings that we currently have, then our intent is to open that back up and facilitate the community members coming and dumping again.
Yeah.
But we have for years, for like I say, at least 6 years. Now, I think to touch on one of the other questions that you had, I think distributing the final product will come much sooner than, and you said it yourself, than incorporating paper products, just because of lack of manpower, facility.
Yeah.
Right?
You're not just talking about the vegetation that you chop up, you're talking about the biosolids as well, right?
That's correct.
Because I'd much rather pay you guys than go to Home Depot and buy it.
Sure. Yeah.
And I can't be the only one.
Yeah, no, I think, like I say, I think that portion of it will come sooner than, sooner rather than later. There's there's just, when we initially started the program, like I say, we had a bulk hauler out of Mojave Valley that was coming and getting it all, right?
Yeah.
Now we don't have that. So now we started looking at what it takes to. We've had an initial conversation, with DEQ, and like I said, I didn't put a slide in here specific to that, but it's certainly something that we plan to do moving forward. I couldn't give you an exact time frame on when that'll be.
If you want to grow anything here, you have to amend the soil, because there's nothing in it.
And the greatest testament, again,
You have to keep amending it and keep amending it.
If you ever want to visit the wastewater treatment plant, we've got a green area right out there by the operations building, and it's fertilized with compost.
Yeah.
That's great. And you'll see a slide in here towards the end where it's been applied to a portion of the golf course, and then there's a comparative picture next to it where it hasn't.
Would it be, it seems like probably a good place to start, because we have a little flower farming and certified naturally grown business in Clark Canyon, and we just bought 2 truckloads of compost from Star that they ship from a different, I don't know if it's Bullhead or Havasu or wherever, but it seems like instead of like packaging it and getting it to the individual people, like maybe the landscapers and like Star, those places would, Home Depot, you buy a bunch and then you don't have to worry about packaging.
Right. So here's the caveat to it. If you're applying it in bulk, then that individual has to get an applicator's permit as well, right?
Yeah.
If we're selling it in quantities, to individuals, then not every individual has to go out and get an applicator's license through DEQ.
That's good to know.
But if you're applying it in bulk, like for instance, our Parks Department has to have an applicator's license through DEQ.
Yeah.
Right? So
It's not a pretty hard process to.
It's a process, but I wouldn't say it's super difficult. I would certainly say that if local landscapers are interested in it, I don't think it is that arduous of a process.
Yeah.
There's some annual fees that come with it, but.
So as far as your wood that you chip up, is there any interest in people taking some of that off of your hands, or is it like you just want to get rid of it?
Just the wood chips themselves?
Yeah.
So ideally, so right now, I said we have an influx of the tree trimmings, but with that, we've got an equal influx of biosolids, right? So
kind of need
ideally, we would, So we would, to answer your question, those wood chips should become a part of the process. But I would certainly say, if there's an excess, we're certainly not just going to discard it. The Parks Department, I keep referring back to the Parks Department, but they obviously just applied over at Fireman's Park to the new playground area, right? And those are just the crushed up wood chips. They're not from those particular ones were stuff that they did themselves, but it's the same product.
I personally love, when I heard about what you're doing, I was just fascinated because I love how self-sufficient it was, because you used to have to buy, right, this product to put on our parks and everything, and now you're using, that's just
right.
Really cool.
And towards the end here, which I promise we're getting close to the end, the parks, so it saves us, right around $80,000 in land tipping fees if we had to partner with Ed there to haul it off, right? But then more so, it saves the Parks Department around $50,000 in fertilizer. It doesn't completely eliminate, Mike's need for fertilizers, but it certainly helps it. Yeah. Oh, there it is. So we already got that slide out of the way, right? $80,000 approximately in landfill tipping fees and $50,000 in reduced fertilizer costs.
Nice.
Here's the picture that I talked about. So you can see, obviously the one on the right is an area that they applied biosolids to, and then the one on the left as well. But you can see it's kind of that lower portion of the side of the hill there, or the mound.
The dead area?
green area.
No, the yellow area is where you don't have it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yep. That's it. Any other questions?
It's really cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you.
Very informative. Okay.
When's a good time to come and tour?
Actually, anytime. Just reach out to us, and we'll accommodate it. Nobody wants to come visit us, so we're eager to get people to come.
Field trip?
Sure. And it's actually a much cooler process than one would think. I know you think, people hear wastewater and they're like, who wants to go visit that? But it is a pretty cool process. Even, biosolids included, but just the treatment process in and of itself. So.
Yeah.
No, anytime.
Thank you.
Come visit.
Just
for sure. Thank you.
One last thing before we move on. Just we lived south of San Francisco in the little town in San Mateo County, and they started giving it away to anybody that wanted to come down, sign a waiver, and bag it themselves and haul it away. And it just got to be lines of people waiting, and eventually they labeled it Milorganite and marketed it, and I believe there's huge companies buying it.
You see it in local hardware stores all over. Yeah. Now, obviously, there's some equipment required to get it to that point, but that's it. And I think that, if memory serves me correctly, that's manufactured out of, the current manufacturing facility is in Wisconsin somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you say not only the problem with the paper blowing, but if there was some way to resolve that, could paper be shredded up to be mixed in and be some of the biomass?
It's certainly
and it would be
accepted by EPA and DEQ standards. I think that the key would be not trying to be counterproductive to what we were doing, right? Containing it instead of creating more of an issue.
Okay. I think one of the problem we have here is the county, since they have the landfill and they have 30-some years of life left in that landfill, they think that's a long time. 30 years in that case is blink of an eye.
It's a blink of an eye.
They're not interested in reducing what's going into the landfill yet. So until it gets to that point where it becomes more expensive and they don't have a landfill and they got to truck it somewhere, they're not going to be much help to us.
Yes, sir.
I think there's some other products in here that's not paper and stuff like that that could be incorporated within the thing, like your coffee grounds from your local coffee shops and your stuff from the brewery and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
But again, that landfill's not going to be there forever, and they're going to have to build another one, and they only get more expensive, and we need to try to keep stuff like this out of there. We do the same thing up in Washington, where in front of the wastewater treatment plants, they process the stuff and they got their own brand of everything, bag it up, sell it back to the consumers. I mean, it's pretty cheap, but it's a viable, usable product, and if we can get to that point and we make anything, or at least break even on some of the cost, then that's, I'm all for that, and I love the idea of the composting and stuff like that. I just would like to see it more widely used in the area. So, I commend the city on doing that. So.
Can I jump in here now? We got a long agenda on our list here tonight, so I think we need to keep moving along here. We'll be here until 9 o'clock tonight. So, thank you again. Great
Thank you guys. Yeah, absolutely.
Item D is the Day of Caring Citywide Cleanup, discussion and possible action regarding the possibility of the Clean City Commission participating in the annual Day of Caring to be held in September 2019. This is something we have done for the last 3 years. The Clean City Commission has participated in this. It's just a matter of a couple of people. I work with the River Cities United Way, and they do 90% of the work. What we do is help with the Adopt a Block program and participants for the cleanup around town, and we usually use that as a day of our Adopt a Block program from Flying J down to DMD and back on the other side of the street. So we can use that as our part of our yearly cleanup kind of thing, our Adopt a Block. What I would like is if I could get 2 people to volunteer to help with this. This whole thing starts about 6 o'clock in the morning, and breakfast will be supplied. And what we'll need is someone to help hand out the bags for the cleanup people. We will supply the grippers to pick the stuff up with, so you're not handling it by hand. And another person during the week to help Maria at the United Way to check people in and hand out bags. People will be showing up probably on Friday evening for their assignments, pick up their bags that they'll be using, and so we just need to have someone help her pass out bags so if I could get a couple of volunteers between now and this is all going to take place on September 21st, by the way. The Andy Devine Days is September 28th, I believe, and so we try and do it a couple of weeks ahead of time. This time it's going to be like a week ahead of time that we'll be doing the cleanup, which won't be bad. Actually, the town will stay a little bit cleaner because typically the wind comes up and blows right after we do the cleanup and loads everything right back up again when we wait 2 weeks. So this will give us a week between there'll be the county fair, there'll be the Day of Caring, and then there'll be the Andy Devine Days. So think about it. Anybody that can volunteer for that, I would appreciate it. It's the only hard part is getting up to be there at 6 o'clock in the morning.
I'll be there.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'll be there.
Okay. Any questions on that? There's no questions. We'll move on to Mojave County Fair booth discussion. Pardon me?
At the Mojave Bank again?
Yes, same place. Same place.
This might be
And Eddie, they have 3 boxes of bags left over, so I don't know how many bags we supplied them with last year, but she asked if I'd touch bases with you and make sure you're aware. So she has 3 full boxes up there right now left over from last year.
This might be a fun time to have people, like if they get groups together, do their initial cleanup, maybe.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm hoping for. Yeah.
County Fair.
Item E, Mojave County Fair booth. Discussion of possible action regarding Clean City Commission participation in the 2019 Mojave County Fair. I suppose we really need to take the vote whether we want to participate this year or not. Our time is running out on us real quick, and we didn't have a meeting last month. So I would entertain a motion as to whether we want to get. Is there still time to get an application in?
We got the booth last week, so.
Okay.
Okay, good.
So
I'm sorry, Rob, you got the booth, you said.
We got a booth last week.
Oh, okay. So then a vote is yeah. It's a main subject.
What days are the fair again?
12th to 15th.
Yeah, 12th to 15th.
So you would need someone to be there every day for a period of time?
What we do is we take shifts of a couple of hours and each day, so no one has to stay, although Commissioner Holman stays there all day. The food's good. But yeah, we usually, 4-hour shifts or something like that we usually put in. And we start at about 9 o'clock in the morning, and it goes until 9 o'clock at night, except on Sunday. And it ends at...
10 to 9 on Thursday, 10 to 10 on Friday and Saturday, and 10 to 5 Sunday.
I beg your pardon, Donna?
You still need to do this by motion and vote.
Okay.
Oh, I make a motion that we get involved with the Mojave County Fair. I second that.
All in favor of vote? Motion's been made that we participate in the county fair this year. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. All right. Now, this is the part. I didn't know if we wanted to try and do the picking out the things that we wanted to use tonight, or get together down at Public Works and go over that and figure out what we wanted to use at the booth.
Well, I guess if there's anything we don't want to do, if you could let us know, but we're going to need to process this order pretty quickly.
Really quickly, yeah.
If there's any items that you really want or really don't want that you can tell us tonight, that would be helpful.
Can we try to get some of the items that aren't going to be a bunch of trash? Like, you know, I think like the water bottles were really great, and the like pencils and the seeds were neat. I think we've been pretty good. I was just saying, if we could just try to get some of the nicer things that people are going to use, and they're not just going to be trash, like the little cheap plastic things.
The little what? Like what?
I was just saying, if you make an order, can you just be intentional about like getting some of those nicer things, like the bottles and the crayons and the seeds were a really good one. People really like those.
Well, we always do the crayons and coloring book and the little exercise books that we had, the information books that look like coloring books.
But do we want coloring books or, do we want colored pencils or do we want crayons?
Yeah. I like the crayons. I think they're safer when the kids are walking around with that kind of stuff in a packet. If anything was to happen, they'd fall. I wouldn't want them getting stabbed with a pencil. Plus, I think I was looking at the prices here, and I think the crayons are a little less expensive. I don't know where we stand. I think we're pretty much out of reusable bags, aren't we?
I actually to the inventory, which I neglected.
Okay.
But there's almost a box of the grocery.
The grocery bags, yeah.
There's
the cloth ones.
left, there's stickers left, there's water bottles that I need to give to us.
Those are great.
And that's pretty much it.
So we have one box of water bottles and a box of Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
There's a few of the plastic bags that you guys I can share on that.
In the past, we've done the seeds. We've done the tattoos and stickers and coloring books and crayons. The little wristbands, we've done those. I was trying to see if we had a total here of what we spent last year. It was.
Is this what the order total?
This was the order from last year that I included in here.
2696 is last year's total?
Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
But you use a lot of that stuff all year.
Well, that's true.
That's exactly.
And I like putting it out to where people can just select the things that they like, so we're not just giving them a bunch of stuff, you know?
To save time and get an order in, would it be easy to just duplicate what we did last year?
We could do that sometimes.
Except for, do you want the ribbon magnets?
trying to remember the ribbon magnets.
You know, there's that.
I still haven't seen those on cars around town. We gave every one of them away, and I think we did see one, we were driving down Wallapai Mountain Road, and I saw one on the back of a car.
So no pencils.
Yeah. A lot of the literature was nice to have. However, I saw a lot of it in the garbage can before it even left the room. So that kind of thing, I don't know what to do on that. I'll touch bases with, all of a sudden I'm drawing a blank on names, the Powerhouse at any rate, and get the posters, as there were some more posters left over, and they give those away. And all the giveaway literature that we had, we can get that again this year.
And you want me to do Parks and Rec?
You want to do Parks and Rec? Okay, all right. Yeah, see what they have, and we can put that up.
Maybe you guys might not want to stuff bags this year, because after the last event, you were saying that a lot of that stuff ended up in the cash, so maybe just putting it and letting.
Yeah, well, what we were doing is we were stuffing the bags, and they would just take it out of the bags and throw it in the trash. So I would think have just enough for the people that can select on their own, rather than us handing it to them. If they're interested in it, then they can take it, rather than having so much given away.
So we don't need the biodegradable plastic bags.
Well, what do we do about the kids that come through on Friday? They're the ones that we'll be using the plastic for, biodegradable plastic bags for, and we stuff the coloring books and crayons, wristbands, tattoos, and stickers in that. We didn't put a lot of the printed literature in those bags for the kids at all.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Do they have time as they're coming through to just grab what they want? Or is it too fast?
It's too fast for that. The classes come through in groups anywhere from 10 to 30 kids all at one time.
Oh, yeah, so
and
just grab them.
we're just handing it out to them as fast as they come through. And then when we run out, we run out.
Yeah.
Well, we can proceed with an order omitting the items that you've mentioned and try to keep it in around the same dollar range.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, but I said no ribbon pencils and no magnet.
No.
Do we want those magnets, refrigerator magnets?
With our logo on it, the green ones. I don't know what the cost of those are. I don't think we had.
They don't seem to be on here.
No, they're not on
I wasn't
there.
able to find those last year. I like on the other reason.
Okay.
Okay. And then again, those to put them for people to put them in their car for a reminder. There's nothing metal in a car anymore.
That's right too.
Yeah, and even people are buying stainless steel refrigerators, and they don't stick on stainless steel. So magnets, other than the side of the refrigerator, they don't stick. So I think we can kind of forget those. Okay. Anything else anybody can think of on this that?
Are you going to have a sign up for the times?
That's what I wanted to touch bases on. We need to get a sign-up sheet for the days that people can work. Would you be willing to take that on again this year?
Sure, and I had a lot of your help last year too, so can we send out a mass email inviting people to volunteer? Okay.
Should we call you, Sarah?
Okay.
Could you see me later?
We'll get started now this time.
Anything else we need to talk about on the? Or we will get.
one thing. Did we ever order a banner?
We have a tablecloth.
I mean, for like the backup top wall.
Well, it's on the tablecloth, and that should be good.
Well, the one that we had for the expo, it was a little big, but it should work okay.
But was it Clean City or Public Works?
It's
Clean City.
Clean City.
Good. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
I know I want. Do we want to have the projector again this year, or do you think that takes up too much space in the booth to have the projector with the ongoing pictures?
It's good.
It's a nice feature because it gives us a backdrop.
Recycling, we can.
I don't know how much interest there was in it. I don't know how many people stopped to watch the video.
That was it.
And it was also getting it taken care of at night so that it wasn't.
We had to have somebody at that time who took care of it. It was.
You guys could put up your neat display with your what to recycle as a backdrop.
That'd be good.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
I think actually we got a paper sign at Clean City Commission with our logo on it. So. Anything else we can think about for this between now and next meeting? Big things, I wanted to get this order as fast as we could because last year the plastic bags, the biodegradable plastic bags didn't come in time. Yeah. Sort of defeating the purpose, but we had to use Walmart bags. Okay? Nothing else? We'll move on to item F, is this City of Kingman Council Commission Workshop. Recap of the June 29th, 2019 City of Kingman Council and Commission Workshop, including discussion and possible action regarding future goals.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, so we did have a joint workshop with the various commissions of the city and the Common Council, and the PowerPoint from that meeting is included in your packet. It's also included. Also, I've made a copy of the literature from the League of Cities about you as a public official. So a lot of this was training on open meeting law, conflict of interest, and then the afternoon or the second half of it was kind of a strategic planning where all the commissions sat down and kind of talked about what their goals going forward would be for the next year. Unfortunately, it was just the chairman and myself that were at this meeting, so we did kind of go through on some on goals, and I think I was just trying to echo a lot of the discussion that I've heard from you before, but it's talking about other things, reducing and reusing also along with recycling, and I think that kind of plays into Keelan's presentation, but also some of the other things we've been talking about, maybe focusing more maybe on special events and community cleanups. So all that information will be put together and presented to the council at a future meeting. I can't remember which one. But all in all, I think it was a good training, but there's a lot of good information in there about open meeting law especially. It's very important. Somebody had mentioned if we send out a mass email, when Donna sends out an email to the group, whether it's a link to the packet, please don't reply all. That's technically a violation of the open meeting laws. By replying all to an email, where we're all on an email, that's a default meeting of the Clean City Commission that wasn't posted. Public had no notice of it. They had no ability to come and hear that discussion. So if you get an email from Donna and from myself or Eddie, please just respond to whoever sent it. A lot of this stuff, it seems complicated, but the whole idea of the open meeting law is that, these folks have a right to come to these meetings and expect that, we're here, you're here with an open mind, and we're discussing all this in public, that there haven't been any prior meetings, any decisions have been made behind closed doors or outside of that public view. So sometimes it gets complicated, but it's important. Conflict of interest was a big discussion. I don't know that there's that's more of a issue maybe with some other commissions, maybe planning and zoning, or some of the other commissions may have that come up more where.
Could you speak up a little?
I said conflict of interest may be more of an issue with some other commissions, maybe with planning and zoning. It's never been a big issue with this commission, but just be aware that, if there's a matter being heard by the commission and you have a direct financial stake in the outcome of that decision, that, you should get down from the dais and leave the room until that discussion and not partake in the decision-making on that item. If you have an indirect conflict, through a family member or whatever, let me know, and we can talk with the city attorney about whether, what the appropriate thing to do, whether you should excuse yourself from that meeting or not. But, and again, that goes back to the public knowing that we're making decisions based upon what we talk about here, not what's going on behind the scenes. So, I thought it was a good training, and like I say, that all that information will be presented to council at an upcoming meeting. Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you had any other thoughts on that.
I just reiterate what you said. It was a good meeting. A lot of things came out of it. The one thing that we decided would be our goals, I guess, would be to emphasize the 3 R's, and the 3 R's are reuse, reduce, and recycle. And that's what we'll be trying to, the message we'll be trying to get out to the public. But it was a very good meeting all the way around, I thought.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions? If not, we'll move on to item 6. Announcements by commission members, limited to announcements, availability, attendance at conferences and seminars, requests for agenda items for future meetings. Commissioner Hollins.
Yes, on June 11th, I went to Albuquerque and attended their regional recycling market development workshop. And again, that was where the communities were looking for local markets for their recyclables, glass, whatever, so they could have something to do with it, because otherwise a lot of the ways to dispose of the recycling, of course, with it being so, the value being down, then it was trying to increase their local market for those, like glass for aggregate and stuff like that. Very interesting, and hopefully we can get our development people, economic development people working on that would be a good idea. Very good, had pretty good attendance. A lot of people from New Mexico, obviously, but there was people even back east at the conference there, so it was very, very informative and got you thinking on a lot of things. And then I get the recycling magazine here, and again, the flux of different people's recycling programs is amazing. One place in Massachusetts, they opened a glass recycling depot at their local transfer station where they process the glass for use as aggregate. And then in Greensboro, North Carolina, they stopped accepting glass in the curbside recycling program due to the cost. So one place found what to do with it, and the other place basically gave up. Again, some of them in Sierra Vista, they ended their curbside recycling collection in favor of the drop-off program because of the cost. So it's we're all over the map what is happening with recycling in America. So, and then I think I'll be here for the fair. I'm not sure I'll be here for the 21st. Because I'm supposed to be walking the Grand Canyon right about that time, so I might still be in the Grand Canyon somewhere. But I'll be here for the fair and available anytime for the fair.
Super. Commissioner Ferry.
So I've been talking to some people in the community, and I'm really excited because there's talk of a community recycling program starting where it's on Facebook and it's like a buy-sell trade, but it's free, and a business such as mine, I get packages and packing peanuts and things like that, can put onto the page. I have boxes, I have packing peanuts, and someone in the community that's moving can come and pick it up. Or this person has collected rubber bands forever from their newspapers, and our flower shop uses rubber bands, so we can go and pick them up, magazines, things like that. But a buy-sell trade that's free on Facebook, that's more of a community-driven recycling program. So I'll keep you guys posted on that.
Good. Commissioner Takei.
Nothing.
Commissioner Bowman. Commissioner Gunther. And I have nothing either tonight. With that, we entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make the motion that we adjourn.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We're done.